It's sexist, it's racist, and I had a pretty okay time.
Welcome back to the Middle of Culture. I am one of your co-hosts, Peter.
And I am your other host, Eden.
Eden, how is it going?
You know, it's toasty today.
Yeah?
It's not as bad as it was yesterday. Yesterday was very warm. Today was mostly warm. But you know, it's nice outside. We I don't know if I ever mentioned it on this podcast. We put in a covered patio last year. So we have been spending a lot of time on our covered patio this spring, and that has remained true. I was out there this afternoon with a friend, and we just sat on the patio in the shade for 2.5 hours, drank some tea, chatted. It was great.
Nice.
How about you? What you been up to?
Not much. Interestingly, it is the opposite here. It has gotten quite cool.
The cold is coming tomorrow for us.
Okay.
It is supposed to drop precipitously. By Tuesday, we're going to be highs of 50 something.
Yeah. And we're moving the other direction, looking towards 70s by this weekend. It was a little silly. I went, did my usual early morning, go out and kind of just, on Sundays, I like to just go for a walk, no weights, just give myself a little bit of a movement break. And I'm out there, and I knew it was cool, so I'd thrown on gloves and a stocking cap, but still just a short sleeve shirt and tee and shorts. And I'm walking along, and all of a sudden I'm like, what was that? And I look around, and I'm like, oh, there's another one. And then I was like, oh, and there's a lot of them. It is snowing.
Oh, well.
But, it's all melted, and it's about 50 now, so it's all good. But I had a little trip down to, it was an interesting bit of climate shock. So I went down to Austin, Texas last week for Intuitive Connect, their annual big conference for Da Vinci robotic surgery. And they're always, talking about their new things, or either showing off new stuff or hyping up older stuff, trying to convince you that you're you're missing out, that you don't have it. But hey, it was a trip to Austin to which I've never been, and it was interesting. It was good, and it was all on Intuitive's dime. They sent me down and everything, so I can't complain.
That's always nice.
But I flew back Friday, and as I am getting on the plane at about 2:00 Friday afternoon, it's 91 degrees. And I land, and I'm walking out to get to my car in Salt Lake City, and it is 38 degrees.
Wow.
So it was a bit of a shock going from Austin to Salt Lake and having, almost 55 degree difference in temperature in the course of 2.5 hours. But, it was a good trip, and it was interesting, and I did pick up a few things, and like I say, it's good to go to those things sometime. I've been invited in the past, and I never really decided to go. So this was a good opportunity for me. I'll put it that way.
Nice.
But, well, what you been checking out?
It's been pretty low energy around here.
Okay. I echo that. I feel that, and I echo it.
So not a ton of new and exciting things to talk about. The new expansion for Final Fantasy XIV got announced this week.
Okay.
It is called Everkold. And as far as I can tell, the idea behind it is absolutely idiotic. So I've got to go back. I got to go back to Eorzea, guys. Aetheris is calling my name. So I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV again. I made a new character on a totally new data center that I've never been on before. And found a pretty cool free company. They're very cool people, very friendly. So I'm having a pretty fun time just getting back into a game that I love a lot, just in time for it apparently to get real stupid here. We'll see. But I made a new character. I have a stupid gimmick that my new character only will pick classes if you explicitly are using magic to do that class.
Okay.
So obviously I picked up your panoply of mages, white, black, red, blue. And then I was like, I want to do a tank of some ilk. Well, Dark Knight literally stabs their sword into the ground, and then magical spikes appear from the ground. So that's magic. Let's go.
It's true.
I I think I'm going to pick Reaper as my melee DPS because you literally make a pact with a demon. That's some magic shit. So, it's been fun to have an excuse to go back and play a game in a new light because I haven't played in a long time, and I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Nice.
Let's see what else. Oh, in terms of game playing, last Sunday, the local board game cafe, board game lounge, whatever you call those, had a let's learn how to play Mahjong day. So a bunch of friends and I all went over to learn how to play Riichi Mahjong, Japanese Mahjong.
Okay.
Because it's a thing I've been interested about. I think I've brought it up
mentioned
here
it before. Yeah.
Talked about Mahjong Soul with the big titty anime ladies. But I was like, I'd like to figure it out, and I'd like to have someone who I could bounce like questions off of, because that's the hardest part with any of the online games is you don't have a person that you can just be like, okay, explain to me why this didn't work. Explain to me what I did wrong here, or explain to me what I should do in this circumstance. So having some experienced players there who are explicitly there to teach you how to do it, walk you through different, maybe if I were in this position, I would probably make this choice and not that choice. Or here's why this works, here's why this doesn't work. Was really, really fun. So I have been, plunking away at Mahjong again. This is also one of the things I went back to Final Fantasy XIV for, because you can just play Mahjong in the casino in Final Fantasy XIV.
There you go.
So I've been playing Mahjong at the Gold Saucer, because why not? But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It really made me want to get a Mahjong set finally, because them little clacky tiles.
There's just something satisfying about that. Yep.
And here's the thing, we talked about Roma Cube and why Roma Cube is cool.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about that here.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's got the little tiles, and the little tiles is better than cards. I mean, Roma Cube's just gin rummy.
Yeah.
But it's got tiles. But what if those tiles were fat and thick and extra clacky?
And kind of looked like you wanted
Mahjong.
to you can't decide. Do you want to take a bite out of it, or do you want to play with it?
Yeah, we were talking about how, especially because often they have like the dual
Colors.
layer,
Yeah.
like they have the colored back. We were like, they evoke, and they're often a green back, so they evoke to me Haribo frogs.
Oh, yes.
Where it's like the pillowy top that has the Mahjong symbol on it, and then the thicker gummy underneath. And I was like, I would fuck up a bag of Mahjong gummies so fast. I want to eat these boys. Anyway, so I have been doing a lot of soul searching to be like, what should I buy for my Mahjong set so that we can play Mahjong.
Nice.
Let's see, what else have I been up to? I've been reading a new book series. It is a book series. It's often called the Clem and Whist series.
Okay.
And is kind of a contemporary fantasy series. And it's set in this world where every single person has the potentiality to either be a mage or a healer. Most people can't engage with those things at all. They're basically like, they have a magic core or a healer core, but they can't do anything with it. It's whatever. But those who are mages have a certain amount of like basically arms that, like, everyone has this metaphysical core that you can kind of perceive magically, and you'll have like phalanges that come off of it, and each one of those you can basically train to be a spell type. So the more of those things coming off your magical core, the more powerful a magician you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a healers cannot do magic themselves, but what they can do is they can manipulate a mage's core in such a way to make it easier for them to do magic, because as a mage does magic, they're the like kind of arm things, the magical offshoots kind of get tangled up, and so it causes a lot of chronic pain for mages. And if it's not like addressed over a long period of time, then they can go berserk and kind of lose their minds. And so healers can basically massage those tangles out of a mage's core so that they're able to alleviate pain, able to keep their sanity. So that's why they're called healers. But the premise of this book takes place in one of the, nations in this world where basically it is a mageocracy. Mages are the only ones who have power, and healers are de facto second-class citizens. Because another thing that happens in this society, or in this world, is that a mage and a healer can bond to each other, like metaphysically, and that makes it so that mage can only be healed by their particular healer, but they are much more powerful. It's much easier for them to manipulate their magic. They're able to regrow any damages to their magic cores much more quickly, all those sorts of things. But that, again, means that healers basically are second-class citizens to mages, and once you are bonded, you have a legal obligation to assist your mage with anything that they ask you to do, essentially. So it's really thorny in that way. But what's interesting is the two main characters, Clematis and Wisteria, are two people who met at school, and Clematis is a genius when it comes to healing. She is able to heal better than anyone else and can just perceive things better than just about anyone else, and eventually figures out how to hobble mages, to essentially twist up their cores so they can't do magic for a set period of time. And then it kind of can unravel, and then they can do magic again. And she happens to meet Wisteria, who is only the second Kraken class mage to ever have existed in the history of the world. What's a Kraken class mage, you might ask? Someone who has an innumerable amount of magical phalanges from their magic core. So she can literally do anything. Oh, wow. She is like, her power is incalculable. And so the two of them, become friends and eventually, lovers as young people, and make all these big plans about how they're going to try to fight for healer rights in this society. They get whisked onto like the mages council, because when you're literally the most powerful mage in thousands of years, you ask to be on the council and they put you on the council.
Sure, totally.
And so they're doing all this to try to get a vote passed for healers' civil rights, like a healers' rights bill, essentially. And so there's 26 people on the Mage Council that rules this nation. They've got 13 people on their side. So Clem is like, well, you just need one person to not show up for a vote. And then it's a binding vote, and it's 12-13. And so she tries to make an accord with maybe some dissidents or some people maybe from some other countries to delay one of the opponents of the bill. They do not. They delay him in a permanent way, rather than a temporary way, which gets Clem caught and sentenced to life in prison. And so the book opens as she is 7 years into her prison sentence. She has not seen Whist since. Whist is the person who turned her in. And so she has not seen her since. And she basically works for the government from prison, hobbling mages that have like a prison sentence or whatever. And then this mage shows up and says, hey, Whist's power is all gone and no one can figure out what happened. You have 30 days to see if you can help her. If you can fix her within 30 days, pardon. If you can't, jail for the rest of your life.
Of course.
And so that's where the book opens. And I don't really want to tell you more than that because it keeps going from there. There's 6 books in the series so far. I've read the first 2.5. It's real good. Like really, really solid writing. One thing that I think is very interesting in reading like reactions online to this series versus how I have felt about it, I really like these two characters a lot. Like Clem and Whist are both really interesting, snarky, mean, unlikable characters. And I really enjoy that about the book series. Like neither of them are particularly nice people you'd want to hang around with.
Sure.
Like Whist is so emotionally dead and quiet and like does not show emotion whatsoever. And Clem is full of herself, thinks she's God's gift to the world, and is just mean and persnickety and kind of rude about it. And online, that means people don't like this book series very much because they want sweet puppies as their main characters, I guess, for books. I like it because they're rude and persnickety, and you can't tell whether they want to kiss or if they want to, punch each other in the teeth. And I really, really enjoyed it. I'm having a great time with it. I'm going to keep reading them. The author also has like 5 or 6 other books that all take place in the same universe, the same world, but aren't necessarily about clematis and wisteria. I'm having a very good time with it.
Cool.
Anyway, what have you been up to?
Very good. Well, I figure it's time to come back to TikTok's favorite podcast within a podcast, and that is Let's Talk Dungeon Crawler Carl, because it continues to drive an interestingly surprising amount of engagement on the socials, particularly TikTok. But no, I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 7. I did see over the course of some time in the last few weeks the word that I had a little back and forth with the person who left the response, and they were very pleasant, very, very pleasant person. But we had a difference of opinion where I said, excuse me, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And that word, my friend, was art. I referred to Dungeon Crawler Carl as entertainment. And I said, but I'm not going to give it the credit of calling it art. And then was countered with art is in the eye of the beholder and it is subjective. And then I said, I think I will choose to not further engage because, look, I had a ton of fun. Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 7 was fun. It was... it wrapped up a few things. It introduced a few more things. It did exactly what a book in roughly the middle of the series needs to do. And
Book 7's like mid-series?
Well, I'm assuming because you see in the dungeon, if you're to complete the dungeon, which no one in the history of Dungeon Crawler World ever has, the dungeon is 18 floors. And Book 7, they completed the 9th floor and are moving on to the 10th.
Okay.
So that's why I'm assuming that we are roughly halfway through the series.
Only 18 levels? Come on, guys.
Yeah,
Aincrad had 100.
Yeah, well.
And Kirito did that. You know how he did that? 2 swords.
Oh.
2 swords.
Well, see.
You don't get this joke. You don't get this joke because you don't know anything about Sword Art Online.
No, I don't.
But Sword Art Online is an anime.
I've heard
of it. A light novel series. The main character, Kirito, is like the most Mary Sue of Mary Sues that's ever existed. And the way that he wins at the end of every single series is he goes, you've heard of one sword. But what if 2 sword? What if 2 sword? Because the whole premise of the first world that he's in is he's the only person that wields 2 swords. Everyone else is like, I just wield 1 sword. And he's like, oh yeah, well I do 1 in each hand. And that wins the first game. And then he basically becomes like a government agent going into other MMOs to fight and beat them. And I think he even goes to a gun one. And I think he also beats that with 2 sword.
I mean,
anyway,
as you do.
Dungeon Crawler Carl just needed a second sword, I'm thinking.
That's the problem is he can't use weapons. He got enough buffs out from the get-go that he's got to use his fist and his feet. So
he's going to have to use 2 feet.
But yeah, so again, look, it's okay. And again, when I say that Dungeon Crawler Carl's not art, I'm not being critical. I am just like, at least in my mind, art has got to be something more. It's got to be, there's got, like, again, I've used this comparison in the past. I'm going to use it again. I'm 7 books into Dungeon Crawler Carl. There's nothing about Dungeon Crawler Carl that makes me come back and think about it other than, okay, the next one will be fun.
Sure.
The Gone Away World
it doesn't provoke.
No,
it doesn't provoke.
And that's the thing is The Gone Away World by Nick Harkaway is also a fiction novel. In that case, sort of a dystopian post-apocalyptic future. And I think about that book all the time. And passages from that book bubble up in my Readwise highlights all the time, because in this ridiculous world, there are so many little moments of just profound observation about the world and humanity and things like that, that it keeps coming back. I'll say, and again, the word art is weird, but I'll call The Gone Away World is literature. Dungeon Crawler Carl is McDonald's.
It's a light novel. It's a light novel.
Again,
that's fine. I love light novels. I read a lot of light novels, but it's Mickey D's. It's not it's not going to the French restaurant for a prefix 6-course meal.
Correct. And
you know what's fucking great sometimes?
McDonald's.
McDonald's burger and fries.
Yes. Again, Dungeon Crawler Carl was exactly what I needed it to be, which was I needed a palate cleanser from the heaviness, the existential heaviness of the Gone Away World, as well as the fact that it's a little different because it's translated from Chinese to English and all this, but I needed a break from that. And it's been exactly that, and it's been great. And I'm looking forward to, in about a month, book 8 will come out, and I'll for sure check it out and listen to it and read it. But I'm going to just say it again. It's not art, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay. We don't...
Listen, no one's out here saying Madam Web's art, but I love that movie.
I mean... There's so many things we cover on this podcast that we love
that's not art,
and that's okay. Speaking of McDonald's, so I will just say I won't go into too much detail, but I am now a little over halfway done with 12 months, book 18 in the Dresden Files. It's interesting. There's been parts of it, and understandably, and it fits the story. But for about the first half, Harry Dresden is just depressed and super mopey. And after everything that happened in book 17, it makes sense. So it's okay.
Welcome to the club, Harry.
Right. But I've actually enjoyed that it has thus far, we haven't really had much in terms of big wizard battles and this, that, and the other. It's been a lot more kind of contemplative, and I'm actually really enjoying. In fact, there was this one scene that was building up, and I was a little worried that it was going to turn into some big failure and fight and all this kind of stuff. And no, Harry Dresden has to stress himself and is able to remove a curse from a person. And then they move on. And I'm actually really enjoying that. And I don't know, I haven't looked, I have no idea what the reception of this book was, but it's definitely one of those where I could see people maybe being a little bent out of shape. That again, I'm about 60% into the book. And there's literally been one battle with some ghouls where Dresden kind of got his butt kicked a little bit, very briefly. But other than that, it's been much more him trying to kind of get past the trauma of what happened in book 17 and establish a new life for himself in this really, really just kind of fucked up situation that he's been thrown into, where he's the Winter Knight, he's been kicked off the White Council of the Wizards, and he's been betrothed to basically the queen of the White Court of the Vampires. Oh,
okay. And who doesn't want to marry a vampire?
And now he has his daughter there with him. And so it's, again, I'm really enjoying the fact that it's kind of slowed down. And I'm sure crazy shit's going to happen because, that's what's going to have to happen at the end of the book, but whatever.
Interesting.
Few music releases worth bringing up. There's been a lot lately. It was interesting. It was last week, there was nothing, and it was kind of a nice break because there's been a lot. A couple that I was unfamiliar with and have been really pleasantly surprised. And then a couple that I knew were coming and didn't disappoint. So let's start with the surprise, a new album from the album Grief Collector, The Death of All Dreams. Grief Collector is just sort of a classic doom metal band. Rob Lowe is the vocalist. He was the second longest vocalist for Candlemass, which is like the epic doom metal band, that really kicked it all off with their classic, I think, 1986 album, Epicus Doomicus Metallicus. So Rob Lowe sang for them for a number of years in the 2000s and 2010s. And Grief Collector is kind of his in that same vein, classic doom metal style. I stumbled across, thanks to a review on the Angry Metal Guy blog, a new album called Catabasis, A Marriage Among Ashes by the band A Dream of Poe. Apparently, this is mostly a one-man act from, I believe, Portugal. It is kind of doomy, gothic, symphonic, kind of, again, there's a theme you'll see going on here, which is things are a little dark, but hey, it kind of just fits where things are these days. So maybe that's why I'm loving the gothic and doomy and that kind of stuff. But it's a really cool album that I haven't dived into a ton, but I went, and it was one of those, I go to the Bandcamp page, there's all of the band's releases for like $40. And I was like, yes, I will get these all. And within like 2 hours, I had a lovely little email personally from the dude who was like, hey, Peter, I saw you bought my whole, discography. Thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot. That stuff's cool. I mean, that's just cool. Like, I love that we can have those sorts of interactions with certain things, big bands, big label kind of stuff. That's not going to happen, but it's kind of cool to, be able to buy music on Bandcamp basically directly from an artist and have them reach out and say thanks.
Yeah.
Another one, same sort of more of a death doom than gothic doom, Avertat, Dead End Life. Avertat is the brainchild of one of the founding guitarist and principal songwriter of the German death doom band December Noir. I really like some of their albums. I mean, it's some real depressing sounding stuff. Avertat is similar in some ways, but kind of pulls what I am now forever going to refer to as the guilt machine move, where the guitarist, he does all the instruments and then he does the harsh vocals, and then he got this complete non-metal vocalist young guy to come in and do the clean vocals, sort of like the I'm blanking on his name, but the guy who did the vocals on the Guilt Machine album was a pop singer from the Netherlands that Arjen Lucassen pulled in to do that. So it's a cool dynamic, and I've really enjoyed that. And then a couple interesting albums in that one we know is a swan song, one maybe a swan song. The EP, The Cloud of Unknowing by Sepultura, dropped. They have announced that, they're going on tour and then they're calling it quits. I have a hot take about Sepultura. And that is that since Max Cavalera left and Derek Green joined, Sepultura has been pretty much at least as good, or if not in some ways better than when the Cavalera brothers were still with Sepultura. And I know that there's a bunch of people who are like,
oh, ever since Max, and especially once Max and Igor left, it's not Sepultura anymore. Why are they using the same name?
and I'm like, well, because Paolo Jr. has been in the band since 84 and Andreas Kisser has been in the band since 86 and has been the principal songwriter since that time. And they're still in the band. So fuck you. They can use the name Sepultura. And if the Max and Igor wanted to leave because they were butthurt for some reason, they don't get to decide what the rest of the band does. And it kind of sounds like Max and Igor have been a bunch of little bitches about it all ever since, because Andreas Kisser even tried to reach out and was like, hey, we're calling it quits as a band. We'd love to do some shows with you guys. And Max and Igor were like,
we're not going to.
Because they're just a bunch of little bitches. But I've listened to this. It is classic modern Sepultura. It is heavy. It is a little thrashy. It's a little deathy. It's a little progressive. It's what has made Sepultura, I think, a great band for the last 20 plus years. And it will be sad to have them hang it up. But at the same time, it's okay. You kind of would rather a band go, you know what, we've run our course, we've done what we want to do, than continue to drive things into the ground. And then the final album that I will mention is the latest from At the Gates, The Ghost of a Future Dead. Eden, are you familiar with At the Gates?
No.
So At the Gates in 1996 released Slaughter of the Soul, widely regarded as one of the greatest death metal albums of all time, and really put the Gothenburg death metal sound on the map. It was kind of between In Flames and At the Gates at the time. And so they dropped Slaughter of the Soul in 96, and then they broke up. and didn't get back together. And I think it was like 2011, 2012, released a new album in 2014, put out a few others since then. I actually saw At the Gates live. It was At the Gates. It was At the Gates and, who was the other band? And then Amon Amarth, Arch Enemy. There we go. It was At the Gates, Arch Enemy, and Amon Amarth. They were excellent live. Well, they were working on this album, and Thomas Lindberg, the lead vocalist, was diagnosed with adenoid cystic carcinoma. He, in one day, went in and recorded like demo tracks of all the vocals, because then he immediately had to go and have pretty aggressive surgery, have his whole like soft palate removed, and then had to have radiation for this. And ultimately actually died from adenoid cystic carcinoma. And so the band completed the album and used those one day of sort of demo recordings as all the vocals for the album. That Thomas Lindberg, during his treatment, may have had some sort of premonition and asked that they change the name of the album from Dissonance something. It was named after the second track. I'm going to tell you right now real fast what it was supposed to be. The Dissonant Void. In his treatment, Thomas Lindberg was like, I think we should change the name of the album. And the name that's come to me and is sticking out for me is The Ghost of a Future Dead. Anyway, it is, there's a lot, there's a lot of baggage, obviously, with an album like that. And the good news is it is really, really good. I mean, it is just top tier melodic Gothenburg death metal that just has that classic sound and feel to it that At the Gates really are the pioneers of. Nobody really knows what the future of the band is, but at the very least, it went out with Thomas's last album being a real banger. So, all right. Shall we talk about our main topic? And this is going to be really interesting to see where this goes, because this, again, with the travel, with everything else that's going on, with us having done a couple movies, again, I think we like to get a break from just doing movies every now and then. I reached out to Eden and I was like, hey, this will be pretty easy. What if we just read some of the G.I. Joe Compendium comics? And so I sent those to you, shared those with you. And I don't know what we didn't even say, hey, let's read this much. It was just, here's some comics. What did you end up reading, Eden?
I read the first 3 or 4 issues. Okay. I want to say the first 4 or so.
Perfect. Yeah. I did the same thing. So
nice.
So these are from, again, the compendium that was done similar to the Transformers one. They're actually doing a second compendium for the later era G.I. Joe comics now. Yeah,
because the ones that first came out were just the first 155 of the Marvel run, right?
Correct. Yep.
And so now they're doing one for the Devil's Due run. And is it both? Are they getting both Devil's Due and IDW out in this next chunk?
I looked at it briefly and it was very confusing to me what was what, and it was honestly, I was in a hurry one morning when I pledged on Kickstarter, so I don't know for sure what it was. I was like, sure, that's fair. I'll get the other half of what they're doing.
Well, that's essentially what it is, because the book went famously for almost 300 issues before it got restarted with Skybound, which is going right now. It's at like 320 something. But between the Marvel, the Devil's Due, and the IDW era, they got within like spitting distance of 300. Okay. 300 might have been the last issue that IDW published. And so I know that if that first half, the first 2 compendia were the Marvel era up through like 150 or so.
Yeah.
I got to imagine they would do another one for the other 150.
I have to think, because it is similarly 4 books, just like the first compendium was. And so that would make sense that it is similar in size and scope. So,
yeah.
Well, so what did you think of reading some old classic G.I. Joe comics?
When I first sat down to read them, I was like, I don't know about this one, guys. I really don't know about this one.
Okay.
And so I took a couple days away from it, and then it was an hour and a half before we were going to record. And I was like, well, I've read 10 pages of comics. I should probably read more than 10 pages.
Okay.
So I sat down and I just kind of, blitzed through those first 4 issues. And honestly, I had a much better time revisiting it today, I think I recalibrated my expectations.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. This is a famous series. Again, 300 plus issues, all of them essentially written by Larry Hama. There's a couple fill-in issues that he didn't write, but he has had story direction over this thing since before I was born.
Yeah.
The first issue came out, I think, in 82.
Yeah.
And so he has been running this for a hot minute. And, you know, I guess my question is, what is the allure? Because again, people were so excited when Skybound relaunched it with Hama, because they essentially have two G.I. Joe comics going right now. There's the one that ties into those Transformer comics that we've read, that Joshua Williamson has been writing. And then they were just like, Larry, continue your 300 plus issue epic. And people were so excited. People were bouncing off the walls with excitement. And I have always wondered, what's the deal there?
Sure.
Like, what are they so excited about? And so I was hoping to have an answer to that. And I'm still
I don't think you do.
Not sure I have an answer.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure I have an answer. I didn't have a bad time with it, but also, at least in these first four, it's just I don't understand how it developed the cult following that it has.
Sure.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I had a similar experience, though, in a more condensed time frame, because I read all of them this morning. And so for me, it was, I start out and like, I swear, somewhere between that, I read the first story, and then there's like this, not really a second issue, but like another little short story kind of thing in there. And I was like, oh, dear Lord, am I going to have to read one of these after every one? Because I was not loving it.
Yeah.
And then as I continued to read them, I don't know if, again, was it that I recalibrated? Was it I just got used to it? Did they get a little better? I don't know. But I found myself slightly charmed by the end.
Yeah. That is also how I felt. By the time I got through, here's the thing. When you get to issue 3 and it's got a big ass mech that puts itself back together, that's where I was like, okay, Larry,
okay.
you got me, bud.
Yeah, like that's what you needed.
That was absolutely what caught my attention. Was okay. Let's play.
Yeah. So I don't know that I'm even going to bother giving any recap.
There's nothing to summarize.
You know,
hey, yo, Joe. There's some white people and one black man doing some racism to some people in the Middle East. Yeah. And Cobra is sometimes there and sometimes not.
Right.
Sometimes it's also racism against Eskimos.
That's true. It's true. Because we had, well, and we have some sexism. I mean, we got all that. We're just bringing it all together. We've got sexism. I mean, the first.
It's a 1980s military hoorah comic book, guys.
Yeah.
It's sexist, it's racist, and I had a pretty okay time.
We got the first episode, you know, they've got to rescue this lady who created unknowingly or unwittingly somehow created some doomsday device. And I love that multiple times members of the team are just like, well, if she's that dangerous, like, why
don't we just let her die?
Like,
let's just drop a bomb on the whole fucking island. Like, we take out Cobra, we take out this lady who's a traitor to the government, essentially.
Yeah. So it's like, we got that one. And then I think the second one was the one in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like Scarlet's
where Scarlet's like, you guys get the tape with the evidence against the bad Muslims to our friends who are in brownface in the town 10 miles from here.
Yep.
And then they're like, I thought I was in love with Scarlet, and I also thought you were in love with Scarlet, Snake Eyes, who never speaks in any of these issues. Maybe are you deaf? Or are you mute? Or you don't have a tongue? I don't know. Snake Eyes' deal. He never speaks.
I mean, that's the funny thing is, and I don't know if this is a sign, is this a factor of the time it was written? Is this a factor of the nature of these G.I. Joe comics in particular? But, you know, we get zero motivation for Cobra at all. Zero backstory, nothing. Like, we just jump in and here's Cobra, and he's got He's got the little shroud over his face with the eye holes, and then he puts on his battle helmet. And
yeah, you got both of them there. You're like 2 action figures.
Yeah.
2 action figures, 1 guy.
Yeah. We've got Baroness there, and then that's it, all we have so far. But it's like, we don't know anything other than there's stupid things where it's just like, guys, why are you advertising? You know, when Baroness grabs the lady, she gets pulled up to this, like with a balloon and a rope. They get pulled up. They get pulled up to this big chopper.
She puts on a gas-powered blow up balloon and is like, strap those things down so you don't dislocate your shoulders. Boom. And then they go up to a helicopter. How does it not get caught in the helicopter blades?
But here's the thing. The helicopter in the middle of day emblazoned with a great big red Cobra symbol on the side. And then we've got, at some other point, we've got helicopters coming in. They're waiting. It's in that 3rd issue. So we've got the mech that has been taken into the depths of, so many dumb things. The depths of G.I. Joe's base, which is like 6 floors below the ground. And, it's talking about it's impregnable, but up at the top of it, we literally have vents that are carrying the smell of people cooking bacon and eggs, or the smell of the robot being set on fire. And like, it's so dumb. But in the middle of that one, we've got Cobra waiting for the robot to be able to reactivate itself, to get to the outside, send a signal where the base is so they can come and destroy it. And they've got now helicopters that are not emblazoned with a Cobra symbol on the side. No. These are helicopters that are shaped like the head of a Cobra.
It's almost like this was designed to sell action figures to young boys.
Almost like.
Even more than those Transformer comics, UK Transformers comics felt like, I am designed to tell you to go buy some action figures.
Yep.
And yet I was kind of charmed. I do want to read more of it.
That's the thing is, we get to that 4th one, and that's the one with the big Eskimo dude who, he follows his contract. And so, he delivers the thing to the Russians to Cobra. I don't even remember.
It's the Russians. Cobra was not even in that one.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That too was one of those ones where Cobra missed not appearing in this film. Cobra.
He's just taking stuff to the Russians because, that's right, the Russians were going to develop a fear thing. So we almost had. He gives this one little speech to the GI Joes that I'm almost like, are we going to get a fear is the mind killer moment here? But we did not quite.
That would have been pretty cool.
I thought it would have been cool too, just to know that Dune exists in the world of GI Joe. But alas, we did not. But I'm the same. As I was going along again, the first one I was just like, oh man, this is rough. And the second one I was like, oh, you're not getting any better. And then the third, I'm like, okay, this is silly. We've just got, Hawk and Scarlet who are up there trying to distract all of the chaplains from the fact that they're smelling things coming up from below the chaplains. And then by the time we get to the 4th, we've got a fear weapon that the Russians were pointing at the Americans, but then it caused them to die. It was silly. And I was kind of ready to read a little bit more.
Yeah. And I kind of started to get it. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to maybe, I don't know that I'm 300 issues ready. Maybe very, very, very long term.
Yes.
It would have to take, because part of the thing is, it is, again, just seeing the way that comics have changed over time, the amount of panels per page, the amount of words per panel, how wordy these things are. It's not as bad as like a 60s comic.
Yeah.
Like you go back and you try to read some of those early Marvel things from the 60s. Stan Lee does not know when to shut the hell up when he's writing a comic.
Yeah.
Everybody over explains everything on the page. And this is not quite that level of bad, but it also doesn't just trust you as the reader to like infer what's happening. Like it really feels like, I'm going to get on into like comics theory a little bit.
Good, please, because again, there's not much more to talk about in these issues themselves.
It's true. This might be a little shorter one.
So please.
But it really comes down to like the influence of manga on Western comics, knowing how to there's a movement in late 90s and especially early 2000s Western comics, especially superhero comics, called the widescreen comics movement, largely popularized by Brian Hitch, most explicitly in the book The Ultimates, written by Mark Millar, drawn by Brian Hitch. And Hitch, I don't care for Hitch's art. He's very popular. I know why people like him. He's not to my taste. But I'm not going to say he's not talented. It's just not for I just don't like it very much. But the thing about Hitch is he knew how to tell dynamic stories through the action in bigger, more action-packed paneling.
Okay.
And so a lot more 2-page spreads, a lot more dynamic paneling choices when it turns in terms of like, it'll be a big 2-page spread with a very large panel that covers most of those pages. And then like a spattering of things along the top left and a spattering of things along the bottom right, or those sorts of things, which are very much influenced by what you're seeing in the manga that's coming over in the 90s.
Okay.
Dragon Ball, Blade of the Immortal, stuff like that, where there's a big focus on action in the artwork. That's not what you get in these older things. And so they don't trust you as the reader as much to look at a few panels and be like, I can read what's happening here. I can infer the action that's occurring. You don't need to explain to me, I'm running back to base because I need to get back to the base, which is sometimes how over-explained, especially 60s and early 70s Silver Age comics are. Now, by the time we get to 82, we are firmly in the Bronze Age, honestly, late Bronze Age. And so we are doing less panels per page. We're doing bigger panels. We're doing sometimes larger page spreads, more of a focus on dynamism in the art, but it is still over-explained. Those scenes between the two generals back at the Pentagon,
oh yeah,
that grinds every issue to a halt. The minute it's Flag and Allen or whatever their stupid names are, as soon as those two dudes are talking, you're like, okay, I'm bored for the next 3 pages. Like, let me skim and move forward till we start shooting guns again. And then eventually it starts to pick up the pace again. But it's just really interesting to see this kind of in this interstitial period in between over-explained Silver Age style and expansive, modern period comics that we get in the 90s and 2000s. And I would be very curious to go pick up issue 324 and see how Larry Hama, if he has changed the way that he structures a book, if he has moved in and modernized the way that he's doing his storytelling over the last 40 years or not,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very curious. Next time I go into the comic shop, I'm going to pop the last issue of A Real American Hero open and just see what it has in store for me.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear kind of how.
And I know that he does. Oh, go ahead.
Just to hear, how does it compare? What is that difference there?
Well, and I know that we looked at really early stuff. He gets a lot more inventive with some of his choices. There is famously an issue called The Silent Mission, which is an entire 22-page comic that doesn't have a single word of dialogue in it. And it is Snake Eyes going on a mission, because as we talked about, Snake Eyes apparently mute character.
Yep.
Doesn't speak, does sign language, which apparently only Scarlet understands, which that's a choice, whatever. Scarlet being the one woman on the team.
The one.
She's the only one who can interface with the disabled man. We could talk about, we don't need to get into these things. But so this is a really famous issue that doesn't have a single word of dialogue, is told entirely through the art. So that Hama gets inventive later on, and fairly quick. I want to say that's in the 40s or 50s. So within a few years. Anyway, so I love that he clearly does get like a little more excited about things and grows as an artist and as a writer. He's fairly young when this starts, because he's still working today. I want to say he's in his 60s, which means he'd be in his early 20s when this book started, maybe mid 20s, and had to invent so much of this from scratch alongside Hasbro. He was making up stuff, and then Hasbro was like, okay, slap it in a toy. it's like the opposite of what Transformers was, because with Transformers, they were presented with the toys and they said, name these fuckers. Like, here's a truck. His name in Japanese is Convoy. What do you want to name him? And they were like, Convoy's a bad name. Let's call him Optimus Prime, which is a better name.
It is.
I ain't out here saying Convoy's a better name than Optimus Prime. It absolutely is not. And so, they were given toys and then built a world around those toys. But I know that G.I. Joe was more collaborative in that Hama was making dudes, and then they went and made those toys after he made a dude. So that is just interesting to see how influenced it was. But I think another thing that's interesting, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Who's Mr. Not appearing in any of these issues? The main G.I. Joe guy, Duke.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, who's the main G.I. Joe guy in these issues?
Hawk.
That's just Duke.
I know.
He's a blonde man with a flat top. That's what Duke is. But in the TV show, he was named Duke, and here he's named Hawk. But that's because he's not Duke. They introduce Duke later on, apparently, and he becomes the main character much, much, much later.
Okay.
And I know for a while there is a black guy that is essentially the lead for a whole chunk of these issues before Duke gets introduced. So I really would be curious to see, like, where does he go with this? Like, because there was some weird kind of weird racist stuff. But again, from a guy who's like an Asian American, he's not like a white. Larry Hama's not a white guy. He's an Asian American guy. So I don't know. I'm just curious to see how long does it take him to get out of this kind of tropey, kind of messy, just like I'm watching a Commando.
Yep.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
Just as violent, just as over the top, just as racist.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm glad we read it. I'm glad I have these now to pick away at when I feel like it. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be, especially after my first stab at it. It took me a time or two.
Yeah, I'm with you in that, again, full disclosure, I'm reading the first issue or two and I'm thinking to myself, I've made a horrible mistake. Why did I
made a hundreds of dollars mistake?
Why did I kickstart these and then I just did some more? What is wrong with me? The nostalgia hit too hard, because I have very fond memories of watching the G.I. Joe cartoon as a kid. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it always seemed like a season would end with like a multi-part big one. I remember one that was like 3 lasers, like a blue one and a red one and some, anyway, so in my head, I was like, oh, I gotta jump on these. And I'm reading the first issue or two and I'm like, oh no, what did I do? But again, even over the course of just those first 4, I was like, okay, I'm kind of more into this now. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll do the same. I will occasionally
just something to
sit down,
pick away at when you're sitting at your PC.
I mean, so the good news for me is I just threw them on my big iPad that's got this gorgeous OLED screen, and I'm using the Panels app, which is this really, really well-made app for reading comic books. And so I just threw them on there, and so I could just pull it out and go through and read an issue and put it back. And it was interesting. I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad that I read more than the first 2 so that I don't feel all the regret that I was feeling while reading those.
Me too. I did go and check. I looked at the Kickstarter that ended last week. Sure enough, it gets you all the way to $300.
There you go.
So it has all of the Devil's Due and all of the IDW stuff.
There we go. Well, anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up today?
No, the only thing I will mention is the only other G.I. Joe comic I've ever read is I read a single issue because we talked about the silent issue that Snake Eyes did.
Yep.
One thing that they've been doing with the current run is there have been 2 miniseries called Silent Missions, and then the one that is running right now is called Silent Missions because it's Cobra guys.
Yep.
So there's 4 S's at the start of Silent Missions, which again did mean the other day when I was at the comic shop and Jackson was calling someone to tell them that we had their special order of that comic in, he did not say silent missions, and I gave him a hard time about it. So then the next time he called that person, he said, I have issue number 4 of G.I. Joe silent missions here for you. Anyway, the only other G.I. Joe comic I've ever read is one of the issues of silent missions that was actually written by Phil Hester, who, friend of the comic shop, Phil Hester, famous comics artist and writer, who used to live in Iowa City, used to work at the shop that I work at, drew the logo 40 years ago that we're putting on a t-shirt for Free Comic Book Day.
Nice.
But yeah, he's like a big name in comics, and he wrote this one, and then Danny, who is kind of an up-and-coming artist, drew it, and it was a delightful issue. So if you want to see some cool comics that I was understood just fine without any context, you could go pick up that G.I. Joe Silent Missions book with all 4 or 5 of those in there. I had a really good time with it.
Very cool. Very cool.
And the last thing I'll say, talking about Free Comic Book Day, next Saturday the 2nd, May 2nd, go to a local comic shop if you have one. Stop by, check out some stuff. The Dungeon Crawler Carl comic book is having its 0 issue released on that day at Free Comic Book Day. So if you want to see Dungeon Crawler Carl in comic format, you can go pick that up. I flipped through it and I thought, oh, this seems like a Dungeon Crawler Carl.
There you go.
It seemed cute. I didn't have any context, but I did flip through it yesterday at the shop and I was like, oh, people are going to be really excited about this one.
Very nice.
But yeah, so I'm sure that your local shop will have fun events, stop by, have fun.
Yeah.
Hang out.
Very cool. All right. Well, we'll be back in another couple of weeks. So go ahead and give us a rating, leave a review, and share it with somebody else. And we'll talk to you then.
See ya.